Hello. You know who I am? I'm Gator McCluskey. Thanks for tuning in. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? Well, I'm not really sure what I'm doing, so hopefully you guys can hear me. I see there's a chat there in the corner, so if you can type something and say, I hear you, you look good, you sound good, I'm here live to answer any of your questions, and I got some big news for you. But I'm going to wait until maybe a few more people join the chat and we can get all excited. And if I look here in the chat, who we got here? We got Mr. James Arthur with a super chat. That's my first super chat. I never had one of them before. That's amazing. You gave me $1.99, and oh, I don't know what to say. You know what? Cheers to you, my friend. Drinking out of a vintage 1968 glass. Cheers. All right. Who else we got here? We got Mitch Saul. Okay. I don't know who that is. Billa Rose. Okay. And you're patiently waiting. Thank you, Billa, for being here with me on the channel. We have Gator McCluskey. Oh, shit. That's me. Mitch Saul. Oh, it must be your brother. James Arthur. This looks like the same people. Brian S. Hey now. Hey now. How are you, my friend? Tier E. Is that how you say it? Is that French? C. Folder. James Arthur. Okay, same guy. Oh, it's a lot of the same people. This is good, though, because I'm not alone. There's nothing worse than being all alone talking to the camera. So why are we here? Why are we here? I got news. I finished chapter 6. The Burt Reynolds story, chapter 6, is done. And I'm going to press a button sometime when this thing ends so you folks can watch it. And I've been getting a lot of emails, a lot of texts, a lot of chats, whatever you call them out there in the world of tubies, asking me for chapter 6 because it's been more than a year. And I kind of wanted to explain why it's been so long. See, been some roadblocks. Fact of the matter is that I've become a little bit more particular with how I do it. So, nothing's ever good enough. I started making chapter 6, and then I got derailed by a company in Australia that wanted me to participate in a Blu-ray disc release, which I did. And I gave him some material to put on that. And it was a lot of work. So I finished that, and then I got back into chapter 6. But here's what happened. I finished it about 2 weeks ago, and I looked at it, and it was about an hour and 40 minutes long. And it was too long. So I had to cut it in half. So what I'm going to give you really is, in essence, a 55-minute long chapter 6. And it's long. The longest one I've done so far. But I'm really proud of it. And the fact is that this covers paternity, Sharky's Machine, best friends, the best little whorehouse in Texas. And those are really difficult ones to follow because they may not be as popular as Smokey and the Bandit, but there's a lot to follow, a lot to cover in those chapters because this is the very end of Burt's popularity as far as being the number one box office star in the world. 5 years straight. So these are the final movies that had him at that level of popularity. So that's what we're going to do. So the good news is that chapter 7 is done. And that one will probably drop shortly. I can't tell you when, because I might have to go down another rabbit hole and maybe fix a few things with it to make it work. But that one will come very, very quickly. So you'll have another hour of Burt Reynolds' story. So yeah, so that's it. You folks got any questions? I see you in the chat there. I know that, a lot of times folks say to me, what's taking so long? Well, hopefully when you see this chapter, you'll know why it took so long. Because you cover these movies like a standard documentary, it could be kind of boring. And I don't want to be boring. So I dug real deep, and I tried to interact with Burt as best I could. As always, we pay tribute to his writings, his books. So, as I always say, that not everything that he does and says is necessarily fact. But the Burt Reynolds story, as I present it, is based on his books. So anything that you see or hear in the Burt Reynolds story that maybe you can Google and sort of say, well, that's not exactly the case. That's not how I'm presenting it. I'm presenting it from Burt's point of view, and that's really important to me. So there's always two sides to every story. I'm just being honest by saying there's only one side in this story, and it's Burt's side, because that's why I'm doing it, for him. And I wish I'd have done it before he passed, but I didn't. So instead, we'll have to just carry on and hope that, he gets some new fans, another generation of fans. And hopefully some of the folks that discover him will go back and watch some of these movies like Sharky's Machine, which is one of my favorites. That one I spent a lot of time on. The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas is one that I cover, which I will tell you, I was never a fan of the movie. I hate musicals. I sort of traditionally say I absolutely effing hate musicals, but that's kind of the way I feel about them. I think they're terrible. So I revisited it, and I was shocked at how much I enjoyed it. And it wasn't just because Burt's in it. Dolly Parton is just magical. She just jumps off the screen at you, and you can tell why she's a beloved Hall of Fame artist. And I actually couldn't get those songs out of my head. I walked through the neighborhood with AirPods in and just listening to the soundtrack album because, I don't know, they just grew on me. Probably spent too much time on that piece, but you'll see some funny stuff in there. And then, of course, Best Friends with Goldie Hawn is one thing that I did not cover in that, which was kind of a weird thing, was that Kurt Russell apparently didn't like Burt Reynolds because he thought that he was cozying up to Goldie, but there wasn't really enough facts about that to make anything in the documentary about it. But looks like we do have a question here in the chat. I have a question. This is from James Arthur. Burt was famous for turning down roles that would have put him on a path to superstardom. Which role that he turned down do you think could have changed his career for the better? That's a good question. Well, we definitely hit upon that in this chapter. So, spoiler alert, there's really only one film that stands above all that he turned down that really totally changed his path, and that's Terms of Endearment. So Terms of Endearment was the film, the Jack Nicholson role in Terms of Endearment. When he turned that down, everything sort of just went south for him for quite a while. Definitely the biggest regret that he must have professionally. So that's the one for sure. Mitch asks, even West Side Story. Yeah, man. When people start singing in movies, unless it's like they're at a concert or something, if they start singing the dialogue at me, I just tune out. Not interested. It's just not something I'm a fan of. If it's a minimal part of the story, then I guess it's okay. But if it's the primary thing, if every time somebody's on the toilet they start singing, you're going to lose me. Not too interested. But to each his own. I'm sure that there's plenty that love it. put my Twitter address down there if anybody's interested in following me on Twitter. I don't have a lot of followers, but I thought maybe if I got some, I would put some movie reviews on there, because I don't have really a time to do that many movie reviews on this channel, because the Burt stuff takes up so much time. And hopefully when you see this chapter, you'll get that. You'll understand why it takes so long to put these things together. And hopefully you enjoy it. And you'll laugh too. There's a scene in Best Friends, if anyone's familiar with Best Friends, where Burt and Goldie get married, and they're in they go to like one of those Vegas sort of, in and out things to get married. And it's one of my favorite scenes of all time. And I was going to play parts of the scene in covering it in the documentary, but I couldn't help but interject myself into the scene and make it part of it. I actually got flagged by YouTube, and I had to re-edit it, unfortunately, to cut it down a little, because I think I used a little bit too much of the movie. But it's one of my favorite parts of Chapter 6, and it kind of makes me laugh. William asks, was Burt a Jets fan? No, he's actually a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, kind of, sort of, but, he went to football at Florida State, so he's more of a college junkie. But he did love football. And he bought a team in the USFL. He bought the Tampa Bandits, so he was an owner of the USFL team. So I don't know if I'll probably cover that when we get to that time period. USFL was a failed attempt at doing another NFL league in the spring. So, cheers. So, again, I appreciate you guys coming in and joining me here. I'll take a look at the chat if anyone's got any last-minute questions. Otherwise, I'll let you folks go, because I know that you probably have better things to do than stare at me. I really appreciate you all coming in. And like I said, as soon as I end this stream, I'm going to release Chapter 6. And hopefully you guys watch it. And it's long, so you can watch it in sections. Totally fine. You start out, you watch Paternity, take a break. Watch Sharky's Machine, take a break. And you watch Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, you take a break. And then maybe you watch Best Friends, you take a break. But always watch the end, because in the end, I always interact with Burt, and that's fun. But thank you for joining me. I have no idea how this went. Hopefully, I'll do this again, and some of you folks will join in and ask me some questions and join it. I mean, we should talk about Burt. We all love Burt, right? If that's why you're following me. If you follow me because you liked my review of the last Russell Crowe movie, well, we could talk about that too. But chances are that's not why you're here. All right. Again, I really appreciate you folks being here. I'm Gator. I love you all. Gator out. Watch for new movie reviews and documentary series. Don't forget to subscribe and click on that bell so you know when new reviews arrive.